here in front view, and I've started a file blank, and I'm going to be doing the V block, which is the 6.3 on the Rhino tutorials. And so I'm going to create a polyline, and I'm going to show you how it can be used in Grasshopper, and we'll show you how that's kind of interesting to do. And we want to build it in order. Initially, I was thinking I could mirror it, but mirroring it, well, we'll mirror it in Grasshopper. We'll keep it very simple, and we'll show how far we could go in Rhino, but then how we can start to change things in Grasshopper might be nice. And thinking about the model, it's integral from the start. Like, what do you actually want to do? And I actually think I'm going to take my polyline. I'm going to create it from my 0, 0, 0, 0, and start to build it. So I could do reference, but since it's starting at 0, I can just go next point 16, 0. I can do reference 0.8 units, angle 60 degrees, hit enter. I can then, I'm going to build all the points all the way around and close it, because in Grasshopper I want to have it in order so I can interpolate through Grasshopper and deal only with inputting of points. I usually like the input, don't have any containers, even point containers, and deal with numbers, but we'll just deal with this. Reference point 40-0. And now we want to do reference point 8, I believe 120 degrees, I think. If I think about that, nope, I'm going to want to go 8 and negative 120. No, I'm going to want to go, I'm going to want to go negative 60. Enter, and then I'm going to want to do-si-do over another 16, relative 16-0, and this is how you can type with precision. I'm going to want to go up, relative 40-0. Nope, I want to go, that's always nice to have that preview. I want to go over 0 and up 40, and I want to do-si-do relative negative 8, negative 8, 0, and now I want to go relative 0, 8, and now I want to go relative, and this takes a little bit of time, but you may as well just follow through as I do it. I want to go over 8, 0, relative. Now I want to relative up another 40, and no, I want to go up 40, so 0 over and up 40. And then relative negative, that is 8, and at 0. And now I'm going to go negative, what do I need to do? I want to go down on a 45-degree angle, 36.77 units. All right. So relative item, 36.77. Sometimes it's nice to have a drawing, because how else would I come up with that number? And then the degree will be negative 135, I think. There we go. And then I'm going to go negative 12, relative negative 12-0. Oops, something happened. From that point, I think that point, I didn't enter that point. That's my fault. The next point could be that I'm just off. So we want to go relative item 36.77, and I want to go negative 135 and hit enter. There we go. Now I want to go relative negative 12-0, 0, and then I want to go positive, same distance, relative 36.77, and I want to go in the degrees 135 degrees, and then I want to go negative, relative negative 8, 0, and there would have been a way to mirror this as well, and now I want to go 0, relative 0, negative 40, and now I want to do-si-do in at relative 8, 0, and relative 0, negative 8, and now I'll go relative negative 8, 0, and I believe I can close, and I'm just going to go up here and hit close form. Now I have a bunch of points, and there it is. So that unit, which is made here, I can quickly go here and join. You can do that in many ways. And I'm going to join the edges. I guess that's done. At least I think it's done. There we go. I don't want the control points. And then I'm going to extrude. I'm going to extrude the solid, extrude planar curve straight, and pull it back here and take a look. And I have made a shaded awesome block. And there's my bead block, all made and ready for filleting and doing whatever I want. So that object, let's go back and go back to these points. Oops, I'm not all the way back to here. These points are nice, and I've created them. What I'm going to do in Grasshopper to show you something that can be a little more exciting than being stuck on these points. Now, I would be one that would say, let's go in and create points and know that each point had an XYZ coordinate. And I would program that in, and I would probably run that into data that could drive this form. And then you're starting to point your head towards generative optimization, machine learning, like whatever you want to go. Now, if that's not making sense, we're not going to do that. We're going to grab ourselves a point. We're going to grab select points, and hopefully they'll grab in order. And I can quickly go in here and say set multiple points. And oh my gosh, it's not going to allow me to just select those points, which is kind of annoying. Let me get rid of that. I want to grab these points, and maybe I could grab my control points. Sorry, select object control points, and there they are. And maybe I could now select points. There we go. And then I should be able to put those in like this. Did it work? No, it's asking me to follow the point location again, which is frustrating. And maybe I'm just not thinking right. I have these great points to select, maybe because they're just control points. But I was hoping I could just grab those points and grab each one and then input them into here. But if that's not the case, you know, I can slow down. I can use my lower forms of intelligence to say, okay, let's go in here and let's set my multiple points. We started here. We creeped across 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and I'm snapping to the 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and I'm going to stop. And I'm going to grab those points. I'm going to select points and see if this doesn't have a better effect on it. And I'm not sure why. Let's take that and set multiple points. Did I get it? I did. Now, how many do I have? I have 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. So those points are in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, they've been referenced. I'm going to internalize those points. They actually have been internalized. I'm going to take all of this stuff. What the heck? No, I don't want you to be there. I must have accidentally right-clicked. Let's go back. Oh, come on now. Come on now. Get out of there. There we go. So those are all the points. That's fine. I just want to grab everything else and put it on visibility off. So I have these points. And now what I can do is from those points, I can go back into my curve menu and grab my polyline and see if I get lucky. And I can close it if I want to, which is a Boolean. It's a false. Now, Booleans are basically a 1 and 0, so you can type in a number slider 1 and 0, and that's true closed, and that's false open. Or you can go into here and start using what would be more appropriate, a Boolean toggle. You can have false and true, which is basically just a little program node that looks differently that goes from false to true. And there's my polyline, and it is closed. And what's nice about this is I can go in at any time to my points that are being directing this. And because they've been internalized, it's not so great. I'll probably want to extract, bake them back out. But if I go back in to this model and reveal all that, this one I'm going to get rid of because I don't want it. But if I grab that point and move it over here, you can see it updates my curve and I end up with something different. And you might not see it as of there yet, but let's go back and let's take this polyline and do a solid extrude, and let's just extrude it, and it should be extruding in a Y direction for us. We'll set the units on it to make it parametric, and I like typing the number 12 for some reason, because I like 12, And now I can slide that and make that larger and smaller, make it a little more parametric to what I want, and I can throw on a solid caps. So I can just, and actually for this I just type cap. It's the same as kind of working in a cap line. So there we go. We've got the same type of thing. That there's the caps, there's the extrusion, there's the polyline. And what's nice is I can go back in and update this form, but if I did that, I have to go back in and grab the points that were on here. I have to grab all my points that are on there, and I have to update that into here. So I'm going to set my multiple points, and that will allow me, hang on, set multiple points. I've got to go through and select all of those ones again, enter, and close vertices. What is happening? These points are here. Maybe I've only got 1 point. Yes, I've got such a pain in the butt. It is kind of a pain in the butt to work with this, setting multiples. Like you'd have to go through and set all those again, which just really kind of stinks because, you know, I just want to be able to update this from its form. So I'll try and get this running a little smoother, but I just wanted to show the basics of this broken down to how you built it in Rhino and then how you can build it in Grasshopper. So I'll show you a more fluid way to do this, and we'll stop that, and there we go. We have the extrusion that's actually updatable. If I move that point, if I move this point, if I move it out, the curve changes, but my extrusion doesn't change because everything's internalized in here. So what's nice is to make one of those points parametric, and I'll show you how to do that. And what you can see here is I brought them in again, and I just brought them in so I could actually play with them. So as I change that one around and move it, I can have a lot of change over top of my actual form. The cap doesn't work when it's not coplanar, so I've already started to shift that. But you can see what's happening here, and you could always grab this outside curve. This was our original curve, which we can hide. But now you have a parametric model that you can actually play with any of the points within it. And that's not something that you can update over in Rhino. It wouldn't have an effect. Report history, possibly. Now, why you would want to play with your V-block this way, who knows? But let's go back and possibly, actually, I don't want to go too back there. I want to leave that. That's fine. This is the model that I want to go back to. You know, I've moved them around so much that it's like, okay, how can I bring those back to where they were? And of course, I'm not playing with the Grasshopper model because I've ghosted that in here. So you have to kind of think about what you're doing as you do it. So if you move everything and have it kind of playing around in Grasshopper, it's going to be a totally different monster when you play with those points because you've updated and changed them. So you have to just be, you know, it's hard to return by undo to a lot of these things when you're actually making that model that's playful on points. That's why I think it's so important to instead of these points being created this way and put in as a container, these points, in my opinion, should all be created points. And so this point itself right here could be one of these points. Like this was our first point in the series. So if I went up to set list and said, okay, what's our first point in our list index? It's that point. And of course, I can roll through it, all the types of points by adding them or using a list item. You can see that I can go to let me just grab here a point. You can see that I can grab out that first point, which is right there. I can grab out the second point, which is there, the third point, which is there. But what's nice is you can grab that first point. You say, well, listen, I want that first point to be here, and I don't want to input it into here. I want it to be the first item that I actually inputted in the list, but I wanted to have some parametric control over that. So let's grab this 2 slider, and I hope this is making sense because I think data really needs to drive geometry. Let's put in an XYZ and have a point here that actually can be fed into this system. And that point would be very nice to be able to add to that. So we can merge this point. I think what I'll do is I will call the list. It will call index. I will call the first indices out. And then I will also try this, which is an interesting way to think. Might be a little more complex than anybody wants to get into. But let me grab that first item and all of these items. And actually, I called out the list. The indice, I think, is set. Oh, I have to set it to 0. Call out the list index here. And then I've got a list of points here that's playful. And now what I can do is bring that vertices in here, which is kind of nice. And as I play with this one, I actually can, well, I might have to flatten my list. Let's flatten that list so I can actually make that into a point. There we go. And I actually have control over that one point here by number, not by moving. And I think that's something that can be very interesting for people to start gaining numerical control over geometries. And I know that may seem a little strange, and I did a little funkiness here, bringing in a point, all those other points, and then I brought in a special point. But if there's one area I want to have control over and I don't want to be forced back into the Rhino window, I think it's important for Grasshopper to move away from the Rhino window as much as possible, because the Rhino window is a fairly, static. If I go into here and hit the solid menu again and hit extrude planar surface straight, you see that I can extrude that back, but I'm kind of stuck on this form. And even though the sub division curves are very exciting to take a look at, like if I subdivided that and started to pull that, I could change things like that. But changing it back is tricky. I mean, you could undo, but like what would I end up doing with this and moving this around like this? And you see the surfaces start to do some funky stuff like this, and they break. Well, that's not going to happen in Grasshopper as you start to move things around and play with those other points. I could always go back into these points. Keep in mind these ones, move this one out here, and then I don't have problems. And because there's a surface problem, I have to find another way to surface patch this. So it does interconnect. It starts to really relate. I know I've made a mess of it from the original V-block, but 16 minutes in showing you, I'm going to take this V-block and just save this file. And I'll probably, well, I don't need a bake on the Rhino one. You can make it yourself, but maybe because it's there, maybe because I do have that original curve line. Well, at least I thought I did. There it is. Let me go back a little bit and bring it back to the outline itself. There it is. We'll save that file because it's made for you. You can always turn this off not to see it, so you can see the original. You see where I pulled the points and pushed them all for the Grasshopper file. So it's kind of a mess, but it allows you to think of the connection and why you would move on to Grasshopper, hopefully. Anyway, I'll just continue with this kind of chaotic series, playing back and forth, and see if it's something you like. I will save this one, save as VBlock, just so you have it, even though these are the basic tutorials that you can easily get into off of Learning Rhino Training 1. Thanks for watching.